Nairobi Johnson Sakaja anajiandaa kuibuka na miswada kadhaa kujaribu kutegua kitendawili hicho kuhusu rasilimali. Huku hayo yakiarifiwa, maseneta kutoka kaunti za maeneo ya kaskazini mashariki mwa Kenya wanakutana leo ili kupanga mikakati kabla ya kikao cha hapo kesho. Tumekuwa tukizungumza nao mapema asubuhi ya leo.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we are taking this opportunity to sincerely thank and congratulate our colleagues in the Senate for practicing their legislative duty without fear by rejecting the otherwise contentious, skewed and proposed colonial formula in revenue sharing. The proposed formula is meant to target marginalized areas, disadvantaged, disenfranchised and further deliberately harm a section of this country. We want to declare our maximum and unparalleled support for the patriotic legislators even as they prepare for the next sitting tomorrow. We also want to appeal to those who voted yes to that formula to look beyond political inclinations and personal gains and consider the impact on more than 19 counties that will lose funds meant for critical needs such as healthcare, water and access to other basic needs that the rest of Kenyans have been enjoying for the many years and continue to enjoy up to now. This new formula is simply a return to the sessional number 10 of 1965, which is known to have institutionalized marginalization. We are here to debunk some of the myth and fallacies surrounding the issue of where yields come from, because our region is one of the biggest contributors to our national revenue, yet are the biggest losers. Our region significantly contributes to national revenue through livestock, tourism, extractive and energy sectors, to mention but a few. As you are aware, pastoralists from arid and semi-arid regions in this country have been excluded from decision-making and deliberately denied access to key services by successive regimes, mainly through such inequitable sharing of resources formula until the advent of the 2010 Constitution that heralded the devolved system of government. It's only after devolution that we have seen a transformation in many sectors of ourselves thanks to the devolved funds. But even then, the communities in Asal region are still the most vulnerable, marginalized and poorest communities in Kenya. This serves as a pointer to the enormous work still ahead of us, that of bridging the gap between ourselves and the rest of the country, a gap that is as a result of decades of neglect of this region. The Asal counties occupy more than 75% of Kenya's total landmass and are also the most disadvantaged by the new county revenue share formula, meaning locking out the entire country out of the development discourse. This is exactly what happened in the past with sessional paper number 10 of 1965, that resulted in high levels of illiteracy, poverty, lack of water, poor infrastructure, insecurity and poor access to basic services in Kenya, particularly in our region compared to the rest of the country. And there's a real danger of aggravating an already bad situation and jeopardizing all the gains we have witnessed in the last few years through devolution. Article 209(b)(3) of the Constitution affirms that public finance systems shall promote an equitable society, and in particular, expenditure shall promote equitable development of the country, including by making special provision of marginalized groups and areas. Therefore, those propagating for the amended version of the new resource allocation formula and supporting the so-called one man, one shilling politics are not only returning us to those dark days of inequitable development, but are also undermining the spirit and letter of our Constitution. The Mount Kenya leaders' sense of entitlement and false claims that they contribute 60% of the country's GDP while receiving only 20% of revenue share is not true. Our GDP value is at Kenya shilling 10 trillion. The revenue share between the counties is actual tax revenues collected by KRA, which was Kenya shillings 1.4 trillion in the 2018-2019 financial year. We know VAT is the largest source at Kenya shillings 410 billion, which is paid by all Kenyans because it is charged on 99% of items used, consumed and imported by Kenyans. For instance, the bottle of water purchased by a pastoralist in Lodwar, Mandera, Moyale, Lamu has 14% VAT paid at source, mainly Nairobi or other major towns where industries were set up. Payee is next at Kenya shillings 293 billion, paid by 3.8 million Kenyans in employment. The largest source is company workers, teachers, civil servants working across the country, and payee is also deducted at source, again mostly in Nairobi. The other source is corporation taxes that is paid by companies at Kenya shillings 296 billion, followed by excise at 196. We all import our goods mainly through Mombasa, where we pay the VAT, duties, IDF, etc. Yet all these goods are supplied across the country. This was the wisdom behind centralization of revenue collection in our constitution. Kenya National Bureau of Statistics report in 2019 that Nairobi contributes 21.7% to GDP, yet it generates nearly 60% of the tax revenues. Similarly, Mombasa GBD is only 4.7%, well behind Nakuru at 6.1% and Kiambu at 5.5%, but it generates 20% of the taxes through the port. Hence, higher GBD does not necessarily correspond to higher taxes. Taxes paid by one large petroleum, telecom or cigarette company may be more than taxes collected from all regions outside Nairobi and Mombasa combined. Nairobi gets 16 billion from the 2020-2021 Kenya shillings 316 country revenue allocation. That represents 5% despite contributing nearly 60% of tax revenues. If Nairobi were to use GDP as Mount Kenya leaders wish the Kenyans to believe them, it will seek 21.7% of total county allocations, amounting to Kenya shillings 69 billion. Similarly, Mombasa got only Kenya shillings 7 billion, being 2% of the county allocations and not 20% of taxes generated by the port. If Mombasa were to use GDP ratio, it gets double the amount. It's not true that Mount Kenya region is sidelined revenue allocation compared to its population.
Na bila shaka viongozi wa kaskazini mashariki mwa Kenya pale wakiudadavua mswada ule ambao utakuwa na kwa uwanja hapo kesho kwenye Senate, na wametaja kaunti za pwani. Kwa hivyo tuende huko pwani ambapo daraja la Likoni la kuelea linatarajiwa kutamatika mwezi Novemba mwaka huu. Daraja hilo linalokadiriwa kugharimu shilingi bilioni 1.7